to speak about the process veterinarians go through to diagnose illness in an animal. Imagine your pet suddenly stops eating, starts limping, or will not get up. You have no idea what is wrong. You are scared, confused, and hoping the veterinarian can figure out what's wrong. Every day, vets face situations like this, where an animal cannot explain its pain, and the only way to find out is through careful diagnosis. Even if this topic is not everyone's interest, most people have pets or have been around them. If an animal you care about ever gets sick or hurt, understanding how veterinarians diagnose illnesses helps you know what's happening and why certain tests and exams are needed. This connects to real life because at some point you will rely on a vet to help an animal you love, and knowing the process makes you more confident and prepared. I care about this topic because becoming a veterinarian is my dream. Diagnosis is one of the most important parts of the job. I have grown up around animals, so learning how vets figure out what is wrong helps me understand the career I am working towards. To establish credibility, I researched how veterinarians diagnose illnesses by reading information from veterinary medical organizations and reviewing professional explanations of physical exams and diagnostic tests. I also reviewed credible sources to make sure the information I am sharing is accurate and based on real veterinary practices. Veterinarians use a careful multi-step diagnostic process, including exams, tests, and imaging to accurately identify an animal's illness. I am going to cover the importance of veterinary diagnosis, the pros and cons of the diagnostic process, and how vets must be bold and brave when diagnosing illnesses, especially when animals are in pain and the situation is difficult. Now that you know what I will be covering, let's begin by looking at the importance of veterinary diagnosis and why it plays such a major role in animal health. The AVMA explains that animals show illness through behavior changes, not words, making diagnosis essential. The importance of veterinary diagnosis is that it helps vets understand what is wrong with an animal and how serious the condition is. As you know, animals cannot explain their symptoms, so vets rely on a structured diagnostic process to identify the real problem. The AVMA diagnostic investigation explains that diagnosis is what is needed to find the right samples and the true cause of illness. They also emphasize that proper sample collection and clear case definitions help vets see where the illness is happening in the body and how it behaves. According to the AVMA, tests vary in sensitivity, so vets select different tests depending on what part of the body they need to investigate. This shows how the diagnosis reveals both location and severity. The AVMA also notes that diagnosis is a systematic and repeatable process, which helps vets understand when symptoms begin and how the illness has progressed over time. All of this shows why diagnosis is such a crucial part of veterinary medicine. It gives vets the information they need to make accurate, life-saving decisions. Now that I explained the importance of veterinary diagnosis, I will move on to the pros and cons of the diagnostic process. The pros and cons of veterinary diagnosis show both the strengths and challenges veterinarians face when trying to identify an illness. One major advantage is that diagnostic testing greatly increases testing, and compared to guessing, Gardens Animal Hospital explains they use tools like blood work, x-rays, and ultrasounds to pinpoint what is happening inside the animal. This helps pets get the right treatment faster, which matters to anyone who is ever worried about a sick animal. However, there are also downsides. Diagnostic testing can be expensive for pet owners, and some clinics do not have advanced equipment, meaning animals sometimes need to be referred to specialty hospitals. Another challenge is that many illnesses share similar signs, which can make diagnosis confusing and require multiple tests to reach a clear answer. These pros and cons show that while diagnosis is incredibly helpful, it also comes with real-world obstacles that both vets and pet owners have to navigate. Now that I've covered the pros and cons of veterinary diagnosis, I will explain why veterinarians must be bold and brave during the diagnostic process. Veterinarians must be bold and brave when diagnosing an illness because many cases involve uncertainty and difficult decisions. Midtown Veterinary Medical Center explains that vets often have to run hands-on exams, evaluate pain responses, and make quick judgments. Animals cannot communicate what hurts, so quick judgments take confidence and courage. They also describe how vets use multiple diagnostic tools, like palpation, mobility tests, and imaging. When the first test does not give clear answers, vets show the bravery required to keep searching until they find the real problem. This matters to anyone who has ever cared about pets. When an animal is scared or hurting, you want a veterinarian to stay calm and determined and willing to try every option. Midtown's breakdown of the diagnostic process shows that bravery is not just emotional. It is part of the medical skills that vets rely on to give animals the care they need. Understanding the courage behind veterinary diagnosis brings all my points together. So I can wrap up by revisiting the main ideas of my speech. Veterinarians use a careful, multi-step diagnostic process. This includes exams, tests, and imaging to accurately identify an animal's illness. Throughout my speech, I explained the importance of diagnosis, the pros and cons that shape how vets make decisions, and how veterinarians must be bold and brave when facing uncertainty decisions. When an animal is scared or hurting, it cannot describe its pain. It relies completely on the veterinarian's skill, courage, and determination. That's why understanding the diagnostic process matters. It shows the strength behind every choice a vet makes and reminds us how much trust we place in them each time an animal needs help.